Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's our favorite time of the week. We're taking a look at the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. All right, we're gonna get started. This is, like I said, always one of our favorite times of the week. There's never a bad week, so to speak. But this week I think is especially good. I'm really liking some of the things this week especially. All right, the first new knife this week is the Scoria model from CJRB. We were able to show this off first at our Blade Show videos earlier this year, and instantly we knew we were gonna have to have some exclusives of it. Well, the standard version is now in stock, as well as 3 new Knife Center exclusive versions, all available right now. Standard versions start about 70 bucks. You've got black G10 or burgundy micarta. This first exclusive, we've got our orange and black G10 that we use with CJRB and Artisan. Really nice looking, has kind of a wood-like texture in a way, but it's not quite. It's something a little bit more modern feeling. Speaking of feeling, that handle right there, I really like it. It's got an elliptical neutral shape, but it's got a little bit of character to it. It's not just like blob-like, so to speak. Has some interesting things going on there, and I like how thin they kept it as well. It's a little bit of contour to the handles. It's not going to be too bulky in the pocket thanks to that slimmer nature, and it doesn't feel kind of weak in the hand. Essentially, you've got, because of this flare at the back of the elliptical shape, there's still plenty to hold on to when you grab it. It doesn't feel, like it's withering away on you. It's not quite a hand-filling grip, but it's definitely a secure and comfortable grip. Milled titanium pocket clip here, which is reversible, right or left side. We got a nice inset liner lock that holds the blade open, and to open that blade, once it is closed, you've got ball bearings in the pivot, flipper tab or thumb studs, pick whichever your favorite actuation method is. Clicks open quite nicely, and then just take a look at that blade there. Drop points, obviously they're everywhere, but still, every once in a while when the proportions are just right, certain things kind of just stand out to my eye, and this is definitely one of them. RPM 9 powder metallurgy steel here, so you've got a good amount of performance. High flat grind, swedge along the spine, fairly thin blade stock. It's just gonna be a very efficient cutter and a very versatile shape for all your daily needs, quite honestly. So that version right here is about 75 bucks. Coming in at 80 bucks, the next 2 versions. We've also got, well, if we have the kind of modern version here, like the modern feeling version with the orange and black, we've got the more classy version with Packawood handle scales and a satin blade finish. The Packawood, I think, might be my favorite one here, just the feel in the hand. It's got kind of a satin type texture to it. Feels really good. The gold accents on the pivot collar, the hardware, and the pocket clip all feel very nice. You get a bit of a gentlemanly vibe despite it being a little bit of a bigger knife. Definitely pulls off that trick quite nicely. And then the third option, also at that $80 price point, we've got the new denim micarta version right now as well. Same gold accenting hardware in all the right places. Stone-washed finish to go with the denim micarta texture. It's more of a matte finish. It's not a perfectly smooth. You get a little hint of that rag going on. So this is more like the rugged, hard-working version. I think each one of these has a very distinct personality, no matter which one you choose, and I just think they all work really well together. All right, next up we've got a knife from Artisan Cutlery, which is, we see them usually more as the premium parent company of CJRB. But the blinds are getting a little bit blurred, I'll be honest, between these two brands, because I'll hold up this first Scoria right here. Well, the new knife here at the top is the Cazador, and that Scoria, like I said earlier, contoured G10, RPM 9 blade steel, ball bearing flipper, 75 bucks. That's the more budget subsidiary. But this guy right here has also contoured G10, RPM 9 blade steel, ball bearing flipper, 75 bucks. I guess who cares, but it is interesting to see the lines kind of blurring a little bit. Cool knife here though, 3.5-inch blade, again, about the same length, but you've got that aggressive Wharncliffe shape. pure straight edge here. There's no belly to it, so it's not any one of the modified Wharncliffes nowadays. Really aggressive piercer, strong cutter as well. Again, slightly thinner blade stock, not quite as efficient cutting-wise as that Scoria because you've got a shorter blade here. The flat grind isn't as high, but still going to be a really nice cutter. Handles, we've got the Jade G10 here. We've also got a green micarta version, same price. Both of those have the blue pivot collar, and we've also got a milled titanium clip, matching blue on this guy here on the back. Hidden lanyard point here. I guess that's the only substantive difference between the two, apart from blade shape. You've got a hidden lanyard point on this, and you've got a standard lanyard hole on the Scoria. But liner lock, again, full liners on these guys, not an inset liner. You've also got ball bearings in the pivot. Works pretty well. Great utility knife. Maybe if you're looking for maybe something a bit of an alternative to something like a Kershaw Leek, but you want a little more hand-filling grip and a little more hard-working credentials, definitely check this guy out. All right, next up are a couple of knives that aren't strictly new, but they're new to us. We've recently taken to stocking the whole lineup from the James brand, which I'm really happy about. And I'll tell you why. The brand itself has kind of gained a bit of a reputation, especially among the media, I'd say, as being a bit of a quote-unquote hipster brand. And I'm not really a big fan of that moniker. Maybe that was kind of the case early on, but that name or that kind of description is going to turn a certain number of people off, which is a shame because it really honestly does a disservice to their knives, especially these right here, the Carter and the Carter XL, which are just excellent knives. And taken on their own, you take this knife here, yes, it has a little bit of style to it, but nothing about this to me says hipster. It's just a really nice EDC folder. The standard Carter here starts at about 140 bucks. You got a 2 3/4 inch blade, VG10 steel, great shape, great geometry, and it flows really nicely into the G10 handles. Gray in this case, but you've got some other colors too. Those handles are contoured. They feel really good. You've got a deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible. That's really nice. And you've got a really great execution of a crossbar lock here. It's got some metal tabs kind of bolted essentially to the ends of that crossbar, make it a little easier to access and to actuate. As you can see, it flips open really nicely. One of the features that really impresses me though, it's something you don't see too much of with crossbar locking knives because it's kind of hard to do based on the mechanism. You've got a handle shape that is really gentle out here near the front. It lets you get really close to the heel of the blade. A lot of knives with this type of lock, your hand tends to be a little further away. Now, there are knives like the knife I personally have been carrying lately, like the Benchmade Bug Out, that do a very similar thing. You've got your hand right up there near the heel of the blade, but when closed, because of the intricacies of the mechanism, there tends to be a little bit of a gap between the back of the blade, the tang of the blade, and the leading edge of the handle. It doesn't bother me at all, but it does bother some people I know. That's something you don't get with this Carter design. They managed to have just a hint, technically, if you get your fingernail in there, but it meshes up really nicely with the leading edge of that handle scale. Really hard to do, and that's definitely something that knife people are going to notice, and it takes a knife person to have designed this knife this way. Nothing hipster about that as far as I'm concerned. You've got a really nice ambidextrous thumb disc right here. Works pretty well. You've got 3 stepped spaces there, or 3 stepped rings underneath to help you use that if you want to do that rather than doing the centrifugal motion. It's got a bit of concavity to the top too. Works really nicely if you're indexing your index finger there to use that tip, and it's going to come in handy for that because you've got a lot of belly on this blade, so the tip might be a little more difficult to use in certain scenarios. And another nice design touch, I really like this interaction of shapes here at the leading edge. You've got essentially the plunge line echoing the line, leading edge of the line of the handle scale, which then cuts back, so you've got a triangle formed, and you've got a triangular shape from that thumb disc kind of filling that space a little bit. Really, really nice design touches overall, and a pretty robust feeling folder in addition to that design for a sub 3-inch shape. Definitely going to be a very nice option if you need that size, but you don't want something that feels rinky-dink, if you know what I mean. You've also got the XL version, which comes in not much more expensive, a little bit more, about $160 right now, or $159. Same specs, except you've got a 3.3 inch blade, and it's gonna feel a little slicier because I think the blade stock, yeah, the thickness on the blades is pretty much identical, but you've got a higher grind because of the higher shape on the XL, so you get a little more slicing efficiency. Very hand-filling grip, especially on this full size. You know, you folks know I've got slightly larger than average hands. They work really well on this handle. And one thing I didn't mention on the smaller version, really clean handles, really clean on the sides from your fastening hardware. You've essentially, on this guy, you do have 4 bolts, but they're all centered here around the back. They form a very attractive shape. Whereas on the standard version, you've got the 2, but both of them very clean. If you like the way that presents, if you don't like a lot of extra, you know, bolts and hardware and screws and such, very awesome look. Now, the other cool thing you're going to see, in addition to that deep carry pocket clip there, you can actually take that out if you want and install essentially this little piece right here, which can act as a little bit of a flathead screwdriver if you want, a little bit of a pry tab, or that's going to give you a lanyard point if you want. There's no other lanyard point here, which a lot of folks aren't going to bother with a lanyard, but for those that might want it, you do have that option, and that's as opposed to giving you something like the hidden point on that Artisan right there. Again, if you appreciate the cleanliness of the design without something like that, it's definitely a lot to be appreciative about with these guys right here. All right, that's all that I'm going to show you from the James brand this week. I'll try to pepper some things in the weeks to come so we can kind of cover their whole lineup, but there will be links to these guys in the description, as always. All right, next up is a new version of the DPx HEST Urban, which is the sub 3-inch bladed version of the popular HEST. This is a more specialized, or a more special edition, comes in about $375 right now. 2.9 inches on the blade, S35 VN right here, a little bit thicker on the blade stock, you know, channels more of the hard use folder aesthetic as opposed to the the thinner slicer aesthetic. Both are valid. Just take what you prefer, of course. You've got the cutout in the spine that'll work as a bottle opener as well as a pocket deployer, and the jimping that doubles as wire breaker points there. And again, a smaller handle here, but still pretty hand filling, or at least a lot to grip onto. Really cool titanium on the front here. It's kind of sculpted with this rocky texture and then high polished. Backside is still titanium, but with the black coating and smooth, so it's easier in and out of your pocket. Sturdy frame lock for the lockup. You've got the lock bar interface with an over travel stop integrated into that. And then there on the backside, of course, you've got their excellent reversible deep carry pocket clip with the breaker point there on the back. Just really solid if you want kind of a low-key, well, low-key is the wrong word, but a gentlemanly hard use knife. Bit of a crossover here that might work very well for you. All right, speaking of gentlemanly, I think probably the biggest news this week are new versions of the Kwaiken Air from Boker. It's actually a pretty big Boker week. I'll start with the full size. The full size has been out a little bit, but we've got a couple of new versions right now, including this Jade G10 version with black liners and the black blade. This guy comes in about $90. You've got VG10, 3.5 inches. Really nice aesthetic with these two finishes blended together. Liner lock, ball bearings in the pivot, titanium liners on these guys, not stainless steel. Really nice ball bearing flipping action and the deep carry pocket clip. Very cool knife, but even bigger is the smaller version, which are the mini Kwaiken Air. And these guys are right on. The timeliness of these I think is great. Blade length just over 3 inches, and if you've been looking for a more premium feeling upgrade over something like CRKT's CEO Flipper, these are what you've been waiting for. And despite being a more premium option for something like that, the pricing isn't that much higher. Depending on which version you get, it starts at about $63. Not bad at all. You've got a black G10 version if you want to kind of match the general aesthetic of that CEO. Nice VG10 blade again, very similar in shape, and you've got a more premium feeling finish here. You've got some really tight horizontal grain scratches on here that feel slightly more custom in a way. The G10 is nice, contoured over really nicely. You've got that liner lock, you've got the deep carry pocket clip, you've got the ball bearing flipper, which works great. I think the Cocobolo version here looks especially wonderful. Comes in about $82 right now. You've also got stone-washed titanium, which you can see here on the full-size version. So just use your imagination. You've got the Jade G10. You've got an all blacked out version of the black G10 as well. Really, really classy gentleman's knives. Definitely the mini version especially. I think in the running on for one of my favorite knives this year for sure. And the original Kwaiken versus the Kwaiken Airs here, I liked them just fine. But in a way, it feels with these Air versions, both mini and full size, they're kind of coming into their own in a way. Or at least I'm appreciating them in a different way than I used to on the old ones. Really, really dig these guys very much. All right, next up, we've got a Brian Efros design from Boker Plus, and this is the Jive, which has been very popular very quickly, actually. Price on this is about $108. For that, you've got a very nice sculpted titanium handle. There's a good contour to it. The edges are finished really nicely. Feels very firm in the hand, despite being a slightly smaller knife. It's kind of a 3.5 finger grip for me, but it's super solid. You've got a folded clip there, a little bit on the narrower side, so maybe super thick pants aren't going to be great for this. You've got the over travel stop / lock bar insert there, which you want. Ball bearings in the pivot. No flipper tab. This is a thumb stud only guy, but as you can see, it pops really nicely. And they're serialized too. This one right here is actually 005, which is pretty cool. And Boker Plus tends to do that sometimes, even on non-limited edition knives. They will put some serial numbers on things. I know my my Urban Trapper has one, and you see it on some of these Kwaiken Airs as well. It's kind of cool to see a pretty low one, in fact, for a non-limited edition here. D2 blade, very aggressive clip point shape with the recurve, very kind of custom knife feeling in its shape at least, and just under 3 inches. So another good option for a harder use feeling knife with a 3-inch blade. A bit more of a premium, up-level, upscale luxury feel with this guy too. And the materials here are a little bit on the understated side perhaps, but we've got one for just a few bucks more that blings things up a little bit without going too crazy. A new version of the Gulo Pro, which is a knife design I really like. This guy right here, this new version, comes in about $118. D2 blade again, 3.3 inches. Really nice drop point shape going on. A little bit stouter. You've got not the thinnest blade stock, but you do have a kind of 2/3 height flat grind. Keep things slicey enough. The bolsters here are titanium with a bit of a gray finish, and you've got shredded carbon fiber inlays on both sides of the handle. Nice pocket clip here. Liner lock, again, no flipper tab, but you do have ball bearings in this guy. Single-sided thumb stud, pops open really, really nicely. There's also some stainless steel handled versions of this with some milling that have been out already. Those come in just under $100 if you like the shape, but not quite the handle materials here. Either way, you've definitely got a classy and solid piece. I guess without even realizing it, there's kind of a theme here. There's a lot of very kind of gentlemanly, or at least genteel knife designs we've seen so far. Nothing that's, the DPx probably comes closest, but nothing that's like overtly super tactical or anything. And that's going to continue with this next knife, another gentlemanly design. This is a Chuck Gudreidis design. Pardon me while I stumble over his name. Another Boker. This is the IcePick dagger, although it is a single edge blade. You don't have a sharpened top swedge. $123 for this guy. VG10 blade steel, 3.3 inches long. With that, you've got flat grinds, keeps things a little bit on the stouter side, given its narrow profile, and you've got a thumb disc for opening here too. Fairly lightweight, given its size. What are we looking at here? Just a hair over 2 ounces, 2.05. So very lightweight indeed. Most of the reason for that lightweight, I'd say, is one, you do have that narrow blade, but you've also got the primary material on the handle construction, not just decorative, but structural as well, is carbon fiber. You got it here on the front side. It's not a scale, that is a front slab. You've got it on the back spacer and then on the scale on the reverse side. And it's only scaled because you do have a single layer of the liner lock there, anodized blue to match the pocket clip and the stud or the thumb disc there. Really cool. And you do have a nod to the decorative here. You add a little bit of weight, but you've got essentially a half metal sphere here on the front that also matches the blue. Feels really nice, actually. It gives you a point to index. It's not like a grippy section, but it gives you something to feel. So let's say, this is a fairly symmetrical profile. If you kind of grab it, you've got the pocket clip on the back side and you've got that sphere or inlay on the front as a place to kind of index your finger. You know, if you're on that, you're not sliding forward onto the blade when you go to cut something. Nice little touch, and it looks pretty cool too. As far as the pivot construction here, no ball bearings. You've got nylon washers in this case. Actually gives you a more deliberate opening, but a very solid and secure feeling lockup. No blade play that I can detect right here. All right, next up we got a couple of knives from We Knife Company, including this little pendant knife right here. This is the Quark, designed by Ostap. Comes in just under $100, so it's a little bit pricey, but for that, you do get an M390 blade, which is kind of neat. Chisel ground in this case, and technically compound ground too. Although this is obviously not a slicer, not a general purpose utility knife. This is, I think, straight up just a little package opener. You can open boxes with this little edge, no problem. M390, interesting to see smaller blades like this being made with more premium steels. Usually you see them with some pretty basic stuff. So you're gonna have a decent bit of edge retention for that task. Again, given it is a tiny little blade. Resharpening, you can take this guy apart. You can see there's a Torx screw there at the back, and you're gonna wanna take it apart if you are going to actually sharpen it, because otherwise it should be pretty difficult too with the rest of the pendant button in the way. But it feels pretty good in a pinch, I will say that. The We logo there is raised, gives you some traction. The backside has a little bit of concavity in addition to the raised center section. Yeah, actually feels fairly secure if I'm honest. And then you've got that clip-in sheath there, which has a little lanyard or a little point there to hang it from a neck chain or something like that, so you can grab it and take it off the chain when you need to cut something. Now, if you'd rather have a quote-unquote real knife, another one here from We, a new titanium frame lock flipper, the Primoris, coming in at $212.50 right now. 20 CV blade, 3.5 inches long, really cool shape. A bit of a spear point or a stylized spear point going on. The 20 CV is going to hold an edge pretty well. Not super thin, but high enough of a flat grind that's going to slice decently, if not super efficiently. Nice finish, nice shape. I really am digging that. Titanium handles, a couple different finishes. This is the black stonewashed version. There's also a carbon fiber version, and that's a few bucks more, I want to say. I don't think it's quite $212. Literally only a few bucks more. It's about $217 right now, so not a huge jump if you want that. Deep carry pocket clip, which is reversible, bolted to the sides of the titanium there. Nice frame lock for the rigidity. Ball bearings in the pivot. Excellent flipping action. Honestly, it's everything you would expect from a new We flipper. All right, next up we've got a new mid-tech D-Rocket. This is the Fukushu front flipper. It's $550 right now. 3-inch blade, M390 steel. Very stylish hollow grinds in this case. They feel, I don't know if aggressive is the right word or not, but they feel deep. They feel just, I don't know, deep. There's something to that as opposed to a shallower flat grind or a shallower hollow grind. Might not feel as jivey. I don't know. Titanium handles, interesting shape going on. It's not just a pure contour. You've got kind of a shallow channel here. You can kind of see it from the back a little bit. That moves along up the handle itself. Feels very interesting there for a small utility knife. And then I really like the liner lock execution here. It's completely nested, like even on the front side, usually with a nested liner lock. Again, the Scoria example comes in great. You usually see a little bit of that peeking through. But from the front angle here, you can see that liner lock, but it buries completely into the titanium when you go to close it. Just looks really cool. As far as the flipping action goes, it's a front flipper, so I'm not the best at it, but it feels nice and smooth. You've got a nice subtle pocket clip here at the back. Looks to be reversible as well, which is quite nice. Just really nice quality overall. All right, next up is a new limited edition of the Buck Frontiersman. This is part of their Legacy collection. Comes in about $220 right now, and Buck. I'm sorry.
Not sorry enough.
I'm very sorry. 6 1/4 inch blade. Uses their 420HC steel. You've got your hollow grind. You've got your swedge here right near the tip, but it's otherwise straight backed. And of course, you can see, as it's engraved right there, limited edition. Now, as opposed to some of Buck's other fixed blades that are this kind of style, this particular knife is a full tang design, so you get a little bit more strength there. And the handles here are ebony, sustainably sourced ebony. I'm not sure whether they're partnering for these pieces with Taylor guitars like they do with some of their Buck 110, their folder covers or inlays. Those are a little bit thinner pieces. So I'm not sure whether these are coming from Taylor as well, but you've got that great, nice, deep black ebony look going on. But you've got a chunky handle there, plenty there to hold on to. Definitely feels very strong. And sheath-wise on this guy, you've got kind of the classic iteration of this style, or the classic iteration of leather sheath you see with kind of this range of knives. You've got the leather loop that wraps around the back, so it's less likely to get snagged as you're going around. Then when you go to draw the knife, it kind of pops out of the way and naturally stays out of the way of the guards there. Thick leather, feels really nice. The edges are finished very finely, and you got a standard belt carry there on the back. And the sheath itself here is also made in America. Sometimes these things get farmed out on the sheath side of things, but not the case right here. Last but not least, back to Boker, we have a new Boker Plus version, or a slight interpretation of the V42 dagger, which of course was a knife issued in World War II to a joint US and Canadian Special Forces team. Originally made by Case, so the original ones that were issued, I think, were made by Case. This guy has a few differences, which we'll get into. Price on it's about $105 right now. Blade length, of course, is about 7 inches long. SK85 steel, which is SK5. It's the same stuff, they just kind of renamed it. And you've got that double-edged profile. Flat grinds here, I think the originals were hollow ground, so a slight difference there. You might have a little bit more strength on this guy. And you still got the nice thumb pinch plate, or not plate, but the milling here for a thumb point if you want to bring your finger and thumb above that finger guard right there. Guard is a little bit different. It's not straight across. It curls towards the tip on both sides. You also got a leather patch here on the underside, which, again, I don't think was on the original. I don't know quite enough about the original to say for sure, but the reasoning for this is kind of the same as the reasoning for the sheath, which we'll get to in a minute. Given as this was a knife kind of issued to colder climate units, that leather there is going to keep your hands off of the finger guard, which is made out of metal, so it could shield you a little bit from the temperatures there. The stacked leather handles are kind of going to do the same thing. They feel really good, by the way. Now my hands are slightly larger than average, so I'm kind of hitting the metal there at the back. Your mileage may vary, of course, but you've got that nice crushing point there at the pommel as well. I did mention the sheath, and it's pretty large and in charge. A lot going on here. There's a ton of extra flap, and the reason for this, again, is the cold weather type of things. You guys have heard me talk about bushcraft sheaths with a dangler attachment on it. Lets you keep the knife below the hem of your heavy winter coat. Same thing going on here. That's why you have that extra drop to the leather. Retention loop here at the top. The styling of this very closely matches the originals. You've got kind of the brass fittings going on, and then some leather here at the bottom if you want to tie it around your thigh to keep things from flopping around. So at least that at least feels very, very original and classic. All right, that's all the time I've got today to show you some new knives. Make sure to stick around next week for more. If you want a chance to get your hands on any of these, there will be links in the description, but let me know your favorites down in the comments as well. If you head over to our site, make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program so that if you put your money down on one of these knives today, you'll earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the KnifeCenter signing off. See you next time.